I knew about GLP-1 medications years before I started one. I'm a nurse practitioner. I've prescribed them. I've watched them change patients' metabolic health in ways that other interventions simply couldn't. And for 3 years, I sat across from women having this conversation and thought, not for me though. I'll figure out another way. Today, I want to tell you why and what finally changed. Welcome to Off Label with Fallon G, the MP. This content in this video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice, diagnosis, or treatment. Please speak with your own medical provider before making any changes to your medications, your health plan, or your diet. If you're new here, welcome. If you're not new, welcome back. I'm Fallon, a nurse practitioner navigating perimenopause, post-VSG regain, and a GLP-1 journey using Mounjaro. Here are the exact things I told myself for about 3 years. And I want to name them specifically because I know I'm not the only one who has thought them. I should be able to do this without medication. This was the biggest one. I have a healthcare degree. I'm board certified. I know how the body works. I know what to eat, why, and when. The idea that I still couldn't manage my own weight without pharmaceutical support felt like a failure of identity, not just of discipline. I was supposed to be the one who knew better. The next thing I said to myself was, well, what will my patients think? This one thing stayed with me longer than it should have. I was prescribing a medication and privately resisting the idea of taking it myself. There was a hypocrisy I couldn't fully sit with, and the resolution I chose for a long time was just not to take it. Another thing I told myself, it's the easy way out. I believed this even though I knew clinically it wasn't true. The cultural narrative about these medications had gotten into my head somehow, just like everyone else's head. I thought of it as taking a shortcut past something I should be able to do with more effort. Another thing I said, perimenopause will sort itself out. I have always been obese, but my weight began to shift in my early 40s, centralizing in my belly, not responding to the same things. It didn't even respond to VSG, a surgery that actually removed half of my stomach. I still couldn't control what I was eating. I kept telling myself, this is just a hormonal phase. It'll stabilize. Give it a year. Give it a few years. My labs told a different story, and I kept looking away from what the labs were telling me. The turning point was a lab result, my hemoglobin A1C. I had been watching it edge upward for 2 or 3 years. From 5.4 to 5.7 to 5.9, pre-diabetic range. And as a nurse practitioner, I knew exactly what that trajectory meant if it continued going unchecked. I knew the cardiovascular implications, and I knew the long-term risk profile it runs in my family. I knew what I would say to a patient sitting across from me with those numbers. Well, this time, the number was 7.2. I was now a type 2 diabetic. And I realized I was not applying the same clinical standard to myself that I applied to the women in my care. That the shame and the identity narrative had created a double standard that was objectively not serving my health. If I would prescribe this medication for a patient with my labs and my symptoms and my perimenopause stage, why wasn't I prescribing it for myself? The answer to that question took me to a place I didn't expect. I was not making a clinical decision about a health intervention. I was managing a story that I had been telling myself who I was and what kind of help I deserved. And that story was not serving me. I started Mounjaro, and the first thing I want to tell you about that decision, before the results, before the labs, before all of it, is that making it finally felt like giving myself the same quality of care that I've been giving my own patients for years. The feeling alone was worth the 3 years of resistance it took to get there. The resistance I experienced is clinically documented. Weight stigma is internalized even by people who intellectually reject it, including healthcare providers. Research shows that both patients and clinicians underutilize effective obesity treatment, partly due to stigma, partly due to the cultural narrative that frames the weight management as a character issue rather than a metabolic one. Obesity is a chronic progressive disease characterized by dysregulated energy homeostasis. It is not a willpower disorder. The same way we would not tell a patient with hypertension to simply choose lower blood pressure. We should not tell someone with metabolic dysfunction to simply choose a different body. GLP-1 medications treat a disease. This is not a shortcut. They are the right tool for the actual problem. I knew this. I taught this. I still needed 3 years to apply it to myself. If that is where you are, I understand it completely. And I want you to know that the decision, when you make it, is not a surrender. It is clinical clarity. Now listen, I'm not telling you this story to convince you to go run out and start a GLP-1 medication. That decision is yours, and it belongs in a conversation with you and your own provider. I'm telling it because I know that for many women watching this, the reason you haven't started or haven't asked has less to do with the medication and more to do with the story that you're telling yourself about what kind of help you deserve. 3 years. This is how long I let the story run in my own head. I want it to cost you less time than it cost me. Drop a comment and tell me. What story have you been telling yourself? What kept you from asking the question or having the conversation with your provider? Thanks for watching. Take care of yourself, and I'll see you in the next one.